a crater that has been burning for more than 50 years, a glacier bleeding through Antarctic ice, and deep beneath the ocean, life surviving where you would be crushed in seconds. Science is supposed to explain the world, but there are places on Earth where even scientists are afraid to stay, because the deeper they study them, the less the planet starts making sense. The door to hell. See that crater glowing in the desert? That fire has been burning for more than 50 years. Locals call it the door to hell, and at night, it looks exactly like it sounds, a giant hole in the earth, glowing orange, breathing fire into the darkness. But the strangest part is this was never supposed to happen. In 1971, Soviet scientists arrive in the Karakum Desert searching for natural gas. The ground beneath them looks stable, empty, normal. Then suddenly, the earth collapses. Their drilling rig disappears into the ground. The desert opens, revealing a massive underground gas cavern. And immediately, poisonous methane gas begins leaking into the air. The scientists panic. If the gas spreads, entire nearby areas could become toxic. So they make a decision, one that sounds temporary. They set the crater on fire. Here's the twist. The fire was never supposed to last more than a few days. The plan is simple. Burn away the gas, wait a little, then return. But the fire never stops. Days become weeks, weeks become years, then decades. The crater keeps burning. Constantly, relentlessly. Even today, more than half a century later, the flames are still alive. At night, the entire crater glows like molten lava. The air shimmers from the heat. The ground crackles beneath your feet. And deep inside the fire, smaller flames keep erupting from the walls, like the earth itself is leaking fuel. Scientists still study the crater because it reveals something unsettling about the planet below us. Huge pockets of gas remain trapped underground, pressurized, invisible, waiting. Scientists still cannot determine the size of the gas reserve beneath. They cannot model when the fire will stop. They study it from the edge because going deeper is not an option. And the Darvaza crater became proof that humans can accidentally trigger forces they barely understand. Simple drilling operation. Permanent wound in the earth. Lake Nyos. In 1986, an entire village in Cameroon goes to sleep and never wakes up. No explosion, no earthquake, no warning, just silence. When rescuers finally arrive, they find bodies lying exactly where they had fallen, in beds, near doorways, on roads, even animals, dead beside them. More than 1,700 people gone overnight. And at first, nobody understands what killed them, because there are no visible injuries, no fire, no blood. It looks as if the village simply stopped breathing. Then scientists discover something terrifying. The killer came from the lake itself. Lake Nyos sits above a volcanic system deep underground. And over time, carbon dioxide gas slowly leaks upward into the water below. Most lakes release gas gradually, but Lake Nyos is different. The gas stays trapped at the bottom, compressed under enormous pressure, like a giant invisible bomb. And on the night of August 21st, something triggers it, possibly a landslide, possibly volcanic movement beneath the lake. Suddenly, the deep water flips upward, and the lake explodes, not with fire, but with gas. A massive cloud of carbon dioxide bursts out of the water and rolls silently across the land, invisible, odorless, heavier than air. As people sleep, the gas pushes oxygen out around them. Entire villages slowly suffocate without even realizing it. Many never wake up long enough to understand what is happening. Some survivors later describe hearing a strange rumbling sound. Others remember waking up unable to breathe before collapsing unconscious. And the most disturbing part? The lake could do it again, because even after the disaster, carbon dioxide continues building beneath the water. Scientists now monitor Lake Nyos constantly. Pipes were installed to slowly release the trapped gas before pressure builds again. But the danger never fully disappeared, because underneath the calm surface, the lake is still charging itself, quietly, patiently, like a natural weapon hidden underground. And Lake Nyos revealed something deeply unsettling. Sometimes the deadliest things on Earth are completely invisible. No teeth, no fire, no sound, just air that suddenly stops keeping you alive. The Siberian craters. Imagine walking across flat, frozen ground, and the earth explodes beneath your feet. Without warning, without earthquakes, without impact. One moment, the land is silent. Then suddenly, a massive crater appears in the ground, hundreds of feet wide, perfectly torn open from below, as if something underground forced its way out. The first giant crater is discovered in 2014, deep in the Yamal Peninsula of northern Russia. Helicopter crews spot it from the air, a dark circular hole surrounded by debris thrown violently outward. Scientists are stunned, because nothing should have caused this. No meteor strike, no volcanic eruption, no military blast, just a gigantic wound in the Arctic ground. Then more craters begin appearing, again and again, Some are large enough to swallow buildings. Others fill with water before scientists can fully study them. And what makes them terrifying is how suddenly they form. Scientists cannot predict where the next explosion will happen, which means researchers entering these regions are walking across ground that may already be pressurized underneath. Researchers eventually uncover the likely cause. Beneath the frozen soil of Siberia, huge amounts of methane gas have been trapped underground for thousands of years, locked beneath permafrost. But the Arctic is warming. The frozen ground begins to weaken. Pressure builds underneath, until finally, the Earth can no longer contain it, and the ground explodes upward like a buried bomb, launching ice, dirt, and rock hundreds of feet into the air. Scientists now believe these explosions may become more common as temperatures rise, which means parts of the Arctic are slowly turning unstable. Not from war, not from machines, but from ancient gases waking beneath the surface. And the deeper scientists study Siberia, the stranger it becomes. Because the craters prove something disturbing, the ground is opening. And trapped beneath that permafrost are ancient bacteria and viruses dormant for tens of thousands of years. The craters are the door. The viruses are what's behind it. And that is what makes the Siberian craters so unsettling. Ancient gases waking, ground that no longer holds. Blood falls. See that red stain on the glacier? That is not blood, but it might as well be. A stream of dark red liquid pours out through the Antarctic ice, staining the frozen ground like something wounded beneath the surface. Against the white snow, it looks impossible, almost unnatural. Scientists call it blood falls. And when explorers first discover it in 1911, many cannot explain what they are seeing, because Antarctica is supposed to be frozen solid, dead, silent. But blood falls looks alive. At first, some researchers think the color comes from algae. Others suspect minerals, but the truth turns out to be far stranger. Beneath the glacier, hidden under nearly 1,300 feet of ice, scientists discover an ancient pocket of trapped salt water. Here's the kicker. The water had been sealed beneath that ice for millions of years, completely cut off from sunlight, possibly isolated longer than human civilization itself. And inside that black underground water, something survives. Microorganisms, living in total darkness, without oxygen, without warmth, without the conditions life is supposed to need. The water itself is rich in iron, and when it finally reaches the surface, the iron reacts with oxygen in the air, turning the flow dark red, like rust bleeding through the glacier. But what truly unsettles scientists is not the color. It is the implication. If life can survive here in total darkness with zero oxygen, under 1,300 feet of ice, then our definition of habitable is wrong. And that discovery changes something much bigger. Because if organisms can survive beneath Antarctic ice for millions of years, then similar life might exist elsewhere, under the frozen surface of Mars, or beneath the buried oceans of Jupiter's moon Europa. Blood falls became more than a strange Antarctic mystery. It became proof that life does not always need a comfortable world to survive. Sometimes, it adapts to places that feel completely hostile to existence. Millions of years in darkness, still alive, still unknown. The Danakil Depression. See that landscape glowing yellow and green? That is not another planet. That is Earth. And it is not finished. Scientists call it the Danakil Depression, one of the most extreme environments on Earth. Pools of acid bubble from the ground. Poisonous gas rises into the air. Temperatures exceed 120 degrees. The landscape is covered in sulfur fields, cracked salt plains, and boiling hydrothermal pools. The terrain looks more like Mars, and beneath it all, 3 tectonic plates are pulling apart. The crust is tearing open right now. Molten magma rises closer to the surface, creating one of the most geologically unstable places on the planet. Scientists studying the region wear protective equipment, because many of the gases released here are toxic. Sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, acidic vapors that burn the lungs and eyes. In some areas, the air itself becomes dangerous to breathe. Expeditions are short, deliberately short. Scientists collect what they can, then leave. The heat, the gas, the ground that can crack open beneath you. The conditions do not allow for extended stays. You study the Danakil in bursts because staying is not an option. Here's the wild part. Despite all of this, life exists here. Microorganisms survive inside acidic pools that would destroy most living things instantly. Extremophiles, life that should not exist, but does. And that is what fascinates scientists most. The Danakil may be what Earth looked like before life was supposed to exist. A violent planet still forming itself, still hostile to complex organisms. Some researchers even study the region to understand how life might survive on alien worlds. Mars, volcanic moons, hostile planets with toxic atmospheres. Because if organisms can adapt here, they may adapt elsewhere too. And standing inside the Danakil Depression, surrounded by acid pools and volcanic fumes, Earth stops feeling familiar. Acid below zero, Heat above 50, a place where the Earth is still under construction and humans are not invited. The Mariana Trench thermal vents. Imagine a place where the pressure would crush you instantly, but life exists there anyway. Nearly 7 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, the seafloor spits boiling black fluid into complete darkness. No sunlight reaches this depth. The pressure is crushing, cold surrounds everything. And yet, something survives here. Scientists discovered these hydrothermal vents deep near the Mariana Trench, one of the deepest regions on Earth. And what they found there changed biology forever, because according to everything humans once believed, this environment should be dead. At those depths, the pressure is so extreme it would crush an unprotected human instantly. The darkness is absolute, and the water around the vents becomes superheated from volcanic activity beneath the ocean floor. Some vent fluids reach temperatures above 700 degrees Fahrenheit. The vents themselves look almost alien, towering black chimneys rising from the seabed, pouring clouds of mineral-rich fluid into the ocean like underwater smoke. Scientists call them black smokers, and surrounding them, entire ecosystems survive. Giant tube worms, blind shrimp, strange bacteria feeding on chemicals instead of sunlight, life forms that ignore the normal rules ecosystems are supposed to follow. These organisms survive through chemosynthesis, building life from chemical reactions instead of sunlight. No sun, no photosynthesis, just chemistry and heat. The pressure down here would crush a human body in seconds. The temperature of the vent fluid exceeds 750 degrees, and yet, entire ecosystems thrive in the blast zone. Life that has never seen sunlight. Life that does not need it. And that discovery terrified and fascinated scientists at the same time, because it meant life may survive in places humans once thought impossible. Under the ice oceans of Europa, beneath alien seas on distant moons, maybe even in worlds without sunlight at all. But despite decades of exploration, humans have barely studied the Mariana depths. Because reaching them is brutally difficult. Submarines crack under pressure, machines fail, communication becomes unreliable. Every mission enters an environment fundamentally hostile to human survival. Miles of darkness above, life that shouldn't exist below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.